What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Adam and this is Vancity Audi. In today's video, I'm going to be providing you a full-length review of this TTE777 hybrid turbo from the Turbo Engineers, tuned by Unitronic. You guys have seen me race this thing now. You've seen me bag on it. But you haven't heard me talk about the daily drivability of this turbo and this tune in my RS3. For those of you that have followed along on my journey this year, you know that I started off this racing season in 2020 with that TTE700. I went through the steps of running the pump gas file on a stock motor, to the E85 file on a stock motor, to the full beans E85 on a built motor. I went through all of those stages, providing you guys reviews along the way. Now I'm on the built motor E85 777 file. There are no pump gas files for this turbo available. There are no stock motor files available for this turbo. In order to utilize this turbo on Unitronic software, and I have to think that with the majority of software manufacturers out there, you're going to need a built engine, forged internals, to be able to handle the additional power, more so the additional torque of this larger hybrid turbo. This hybrid is a 66 mil from the Turbo Engineers, and I'm going to go through a few points that I liked about it, a few points that I didn't like about it, and kind of give you guys an overall scope of what I think about this turbo. First thing I'll touch on is the dreaded wastegate rattle. That is something that you get in a stock turbo. That is something you get with a hybrid turbo. But I have to admit that with this 777, I don't know if it's just a placebo effect. It could be that I'm driving the car less, but it sounds like the wastegate rattle is slightly diminished. I don't know why. I have to be real with you guys. I have no idea why. It's just, it takes a bit more gas before you hear that whack, 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 whack of that wastegate. So if you're daily driving and putzing around and you're not accelerating hard, you don't hear it as much as you do on the TTE700 or the stock turbo, which is a great thing. Unless you have a company that is willing to tune out the wastegate rattle, which I've never done before. It might work, it might not. You might get worse performance. I'm not sure. I've never done it before, but I know that with the Unitronic file, you do get some wastegate rattle still. Next thing I'll comment on is the spool of the turbo and the daily drivability. I was kind of sold on the idea that this turbo has an identical spool to that of the TTE700. It's super, super close, super close. If you watch my videos of my dyno pulls that I did with this turbo, sadly the all-wheel drive pulls work like a charm, but the front-wheel drive didn't. It didn't get quite as high in the rev range, and it pulled back some of the boost, and it wasn't making quite the power it should in front-wheel drive only. So I can't compare apples to apples, which truly sucks, and I apologize for that, guys. But what I feel through my butt, just driving around, stepping on it, not so much on the racetrack because you're full throttle 100% of the time, there's a little bit of hesitation. Not a huge amount. Like, I want to say at most 100 to 150 RPM. I'm getting really picky now, I know that, but that's just what I feel. A little bit more hesitation of the spool on this turbo compared to the 700, which I was using prior. 700 I felt was pretty confident of a full spool at like 3,800, 3,850, and you're on it and you're gone. I feel like it's 39, maybe, I can't say 4, it's not that delayed, but just a little bit. So the spool's still excellent for daily driving. It doesn't deter from your daily drivability. You don't notice like you're sitting on it waiting. It's just a little bit more than the 700. Next thing I'll touch on is the fuel economy. And the fuel economy in this, it's really hard for me to judge because if you know, you know. I took this car off the street. I haven't been daily driving it anymore. So I haven't put the miles on it that I do normally. When I'm on the track, obviously, I'm burning through fuel like crazy. My mile per gallon is like 11. But I'm not doing that today. I'm on a beautiful drive in the back roads of Langley, British Columbia to talk to you guys and tell you all about this. And I'm seeing right now roughly 16 and a half miles per gallon. So I'm still getting on it here and there, and it's definitely using more fuel because of it, but it's fairly on par with what the TTE700 offered, which is what I feel like it was about 17 miles per gallon on the average. Now what we're going to talk about is peak power. When I dynoed the car, again, if you've seen those dyno videos, you know that my all-wheel drive dyno trumped my front-wheel drive dyno, and that was only because the car was not utilizing all the power that it had in front-wheel drive. We don't know why. It might be the tune, it might be the load on the dyno, we aren't 100% sure. But what we got was around 25 more wheel horsepower and around 30 foot-pounds more of torque from the 710 to the 777. A lot of people voiced their concern, and not their concern, the fact that they were upset, saying to me, Adam, what the hell? You should be able to squeeze more power out of that turbo. And I gotta tell you guys, this wastegate is sealed shut when I am on wide open throttle. You can't close it any more than it already is when I am doing wide open throttle pulls on the dyno, on the track. Unitronic gave me a good tune. I know it was a beta file and it wasn't years of development, but it drives extremely well, and on the track, you guys saw the performance on the track, holy hell, it works really well. So the peak power was lacking. Gotta be real, as I always am with you guys. I was expecting more power out of this thing. I really was. If you're gonna name a turbo a 777 compared to a 710, which is 67 horsepower greater, and only get 25 to 30 more, it almost feels like it was misnamed. We got it on the dyno, we tuned it, it ran great. I'm happy with the performance. I went faster. And thankful to Sharp Motorsport, it was provided to me for free. So I can't complain, but I have to be real, I have to be honest with you guys and kind of tell you my feedback on what I felt. It should have been called a 700 plus, or maybe a 730 or a 740. I just didn't feel like it deserved the 777 name that it was given. I've been told, or I read, I should say, that the turbo engineers name their turbos after the power that they're able to make on 102 RON in Europe. So it's not the same power that we are seeing in North America on E85. Please correct me for those that might know if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, call me out. I want to know. Am I wrong on that? I feel like I'm pretty right though. 102 RON is what they base their power figures off of. So, oh, and it's on brake horsepower, whereas we do wheel horsepower in North America. I made 680 wheel horsepower on the 700. This I made 700 and change wheel. So there's definitely that difference to take into consideration. But I was expecting more power. It's still extremely fast. Made a ton of torque, but I was honestly expecting a bit more. Now for my overall impressions of the turbo, just as a general vibe on what I felt like driving with this turbo as I'm doing right now compared to the 700. They're very, 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 very similar. If you are looking for a turbo that you're only going to drive on E85 all year round, and you have a built motor, you're gonna get more power out of this turbo than you would a TTE700. More torque and more horsepower. You feel it, daily driving and on the racetrack. There is no doubt about it. But if you want to switch back to pump gas throughout the year, That's not an option on this turbo as of right now with Unitronic. There might be other tuners out there that do offer that, but I myself have been loyal to the brand because their tunes have worked really, really well. My car goes extremely fast, extremely quickly, and their daily drivability is fantastic. You don't feel like you're driving a race car. Yes, it looks like a race car. Yes, it's loud. There's nothing in the interior, but as per the tune and the going through the gears and stuff, you don't feel it as much. It is a very well-rounded tune, but if you want to use 93 octane, you want to go back to those pump files during the winter months when it's cold, as it is right now in Vancouver. We're seeing 8 degrees Celsius right now. I don't know what that is, 40 Fahrenheit or 45 Fahrenheit maybe. It definitely, if I had the choice, I would be running pump gas right now. I would if I could, but I can't. So that's the way it is. If you want to run back to pump gas, you might be better off with a TTE700 because Unitronic has a stock block file for pump gas and an E85 file for a stock motor. But if you have a built motor, you can still comfortably run that pump gas file that's meant for a stock block. There's some I don't know, different tunes that you can use and not have to worry about things. Whereas right now, I'm on this tune and that's all I have. I don't have a choice. I'm on E85 for the duration of the winter because there is not a file available for me right now to use. All right, now something that I almost forgot to touch on. I gotta make sure I get in the negatives to make sure you guys know that I'm honest about this. The TCU tune for Unitronic software has been great. Daily drivability, awesome. They don't have it fully calibrated though. So it works fantastic on your daily drives, but if you're on the racetrack like I was, what I found was I could not leave the car in sport and allow it to shift on its own. The car did not perform as well. It didn't hold the revs as long in the rev range. You kind of dipped out of the power, not out of the power band, but just not as much in the peak of the power band because your car was shifting automatically a bit too early. So that definitely doesn't work for the drag strip. Something else I noticed was when the car was in sport, it sometimes would hit the rev limiter in 4th gear. And I think, don't quote me on this, but I think a reason for that is Unitronic had this tune perfected for a car with 26-inch tall tires. What that enables you to do is stay in 4th gear as you cross the line in the quarter mile. You don't have to shift to 5th. I don't use 26-inch tall tires on my daily tires or my drag radials. So if I was racing, I would slam into that rev limiter prior to crossing the line. I didn't mind that because I enjoy paddle shifting my car. I manually shift through the gears. It makes it more challenging, makes it more involved. Really gotta perfect those launches. Not so much the launches, sorry. 1st to 2nd gear, I should mention, is automated. Your 1st to 2nd with this tune is automated. You don't have to worry about it. But your 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, all are on you. So it allows you to hold your gears a bit longer. You can stretch them out a bit longer. But for those of you that may not have the confidence in that, and you really want to race in sport mode, as it sits right now, that tuning has not been fully calibrated. Today is, I don't know, October something or other, October 20th, we'll say. And it isn't, to my knowledge, it isn't fully calibrated. I've never driven the car, actually for, I don't know, a couple months in sport. Right now I'm in drive because I'm on the back roads, but on the racetrack I'm always on manual because I found it to be faster. So maybe with time, I imagine, they'll get that TCU figured out. And that stage 3 TCU tune that you match with their ECU tune for this turbo would be perfectly dialed in and will shift crisply and accurately, carrying the car as far in the rev range as needed. Now it comes down to the one question that everybody wants to know, and why I made this video. If I had to do it all again, would I jump straight to the 777 and forget about the 700? Is this turbo worth the money? Is it a better turbo than the 700? Do you make more power? Is it faster? Is it better drivability? All those things taken all into consideration. No. I'm sorry, guys. I would not change anything about my original decision to buy that TTE 700 rather than the 777. The big difference that I just spoke about is the flexibility available right now for me on this Unitronic tune. There is no pump gas file. So this winter, my car is going to be sitting in the garage with a tank full of ethanol when I don't need it. I would love to have a pump gas file. I'd love to be able to cruise about putting in my 94 crap local octane fuel and not have to worry about it, but I'm still on ethanol. There are also not multiple files. Whereas you can run a 700 on a stock block. There are many of you out there doing it. Once my videos came out, a lot of people, oh my God, you can run it on a stock. The questions came flooding in. And yes, they're all on a stock, not all, a lot of them are on a stock block, and they're really, really enjoying the power and the torque out of that 700 turbo. So, to wrap this all up, again, it's a talking video. The racing season is done with, I am sorry. Back to me spewing facts and my opinions and reviews. I don't think the 777 is that much of a greater turbo with the limited amount of tuning available we have for it in North America. There are companies that are tuning for it. Oh my God, I just got so dark, I noticed. Sorry, I just drove in the shade. There's no sun. That's pretty funny. Hopefully I pop out and you can see me again. That in Europe, there might be more options for you guys, but in Vancouver, in the lower mainland, for a company that I trust in North America to provide me tuning, which is Unitronic, they don't have the additional files. So I would still stick, and I'm proud and happy with my decision to go with that TTE 700 to start with. I was hoping for more. I really was. It was a great turbo, and I'm super, super thankful for it, but I wanted more. There it is, guys. There's my full-length review on the TTE 777. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I will continue with as much fun and cool content as I can in the off-season now that I'm done racing. Few videos here and here with this car, but mainly with the B8 S4. Stay tuned, guys. Until next time, take care.